A lot of people from within the film industry, they are still rather non-accepting OTT platforms are concerned. A lot of actors, they're very excited.
I think OTT is a reality in our lives. There's no putting that genie back in the bottle. Rahi baat ki, is this going to replace TV? Is it going to replace films? Not at all. I think all of this should coexist.
What is your role as a producer in terms of how much space is important for the writers and the director?
It's not my way or the highway, right? It's actually our way, right?
Wow.
And the way we work is that we work with everyone differently.
What are your views on self-censorship?
Self-censorship or censorship or whatever it is, I mean, it's been going on for years. People talk about freedom of expression, but then freedom of expression goes everywhere, right? So if I have a freedom to express my ideas on screen, you have a freedom to express your ideas regarding my ideas. You have the same freedom.
We've also seen this phenomenon, we keep on hearing about these boycott hashtags and all those things. Maybe it is something which is manufactured.
We are entertainers. We are not activists. If I wanted to be an activist, I should be out there. I should focus on what I am supposed to do. Hi, this is Samir Nair and you're watching Bollywood Hungama.
We have with us most important minds in the Indian entertainment scene, Mr. Samir Nair. Pleasure having you with us, sir, on Bollywood Hungama.
Hello, thank you so much.
This has been pending for a very long time.
Yeah, we've been waiting to do this.
And sir, what makes you this this mind that keeps on coming up with new surprises as far as the Indian entertainment space is concerned, be it television, be it I think the web shows, the way you've been imagining of late, and that to so many of them and so brilliantly. What makes you that?
I don't know, actually, I don't know. I think I've just been fortunate. I've been, many times in the right place at the right time. I've grown with this industry. I've been now in the business since 1989. So that's like quite a long time. So from Doordarshan days to early satellite television, to then the growth of satellite television, to now this whole rise of internet and streaming.
Right.
So I have been here working, I have done some stuff. So I guess, there's also a matter of your track record that helps you to do new things. I know a lot of people in the industry and a lot of people know me. I'm naturally drawn to ideas. I want to do more things. So I am always curious and inquisitive and looking to do. And I think God has been kind that I'm allowed to do all this.
No, but I think it's all about updation and how successfully one does that. Like say, for example, a lot of people from within the film industry, they are still rather non-accepting as far as the OTT platforms are concerned. A lot of actors, they're very excited. A lot of writers, they're very excited because they have found the sort of respect that they always craved for. But a lot of people, apart from that, they are really not willing to accept OTT, that it is something that is really making an impact and it's here to stay. And you have come up with some really great shows for OTT across various platforms. Some of the shows they have really given, I think, the all-important buzz to channels. I'm talking about Scam, the way it did with Sony Live, for example. How do you look at this transition? Why do you think it is important to accept it?
See, it is a reality because, what is happening is that we are in the midst of a big technological revolution. It started in the early 90s with the internet, but at that time, satellite TV was the big boom. So because satellite TV was growing, I think internet grew silently. And it was always, regarded more as search. Internet hai to search hai, email hai. It was never built for video in that sense. Meanwhile, TV grew, TV became really big. We did KBC Kyon Ki Kahani, all those shows became really successful, all of that. But the internet has been growing along the way. And towards the late 2010s, social media arrived, right? And with social media and the smartphone arrived the apps. So if you actually trace the journey of internet, the signs of what is happening today were already there in 2010, 2011. Because the smartphone had come, we had YouTube was already there, Facebook was there. We were already consuming some degree of video on the internet. We were already doing that. And the question was that when will the internet become big enough to make it into mainstream video consumption? That has happened through the 2020s. The rise of broadband, 4G happened, Geo happened, all of that happened. And then finally Netflix, Amazon, everyone arrived here. So now I think OTT is a reality in our life. There's no putting that genie back in the bottle. Also, the pandemic helped because when the pandemic locked everyone up in their homes for 2 years, a lot of people sampled this new medium. They said, "ये क्या है?" Because उसके पहले Netflix, Amazon, सब कुछ थे, हॉटस्टार थे, but not enough people were looking at it. Not enough, it was still to a limited set of audiences. The pandemic really opened it out, to all kinds of, demographics and age groups. So all of that has now led to a position where there is, very good content available. The OTT is a very, very significant player in the ecosystem. A lot of movies go to OTT before TV, and now a lot of movies are going straight to OTT, not even going to theaters.
Correct.
So I think, and audiences are now acclimatized to it. They know, okay, and OTT is brilliant because unlike TV, which was, time bound, geography bound, language bound, OTT is nothing. First of all, you can have all kinds of content on the same platform. It is always available. It's not कि tonight at 9. कल देख लेना, उसमें कुछ नहीं है.
Exactly.
You can stop in between and pause it, and it will tell you the next day, resume where you started. These kind of technological innovations that OTT brings is something TV could never do. And it is, it's like the ultimate mall. So if TV was one store, OTT is the mall, and it's got everything in it. It's got international content, domestic content, regional content, everything in the same place, reasonably priced. And now you have connectivity, you have devices. So I think it's a very, very important, part of our life. Rahi baat ki, is this going to replace TV? Is it going to replace films? Not at all. I think all of this should coexist. I think theaters, movies should get made. They should get released in theaters. We should increase the theatrical window, in fact. So, from the time it releases in theater till it comes to OTT or TV, should be made 6 months so that theaters get a chance to survive. But I think all of this will happen. Movies will get made, big movies, small movies. We'll make streaming services. We'll make streaming series. TV will continue to make Saas Bahu shows. Big Boss will still be made. KBC will still be made. It's an exciting time.
Right. So there are a lot of things that you're saying. So maybe we'll take a few of them. Say, for example, you're saying that there is a talk that once a film releases in theaters, so it should release on OTT say after 6 months. But the problem is that a lot of people, they're, I think, not doing enough for the fact that the piracy is so rampant that any film that is releasing on a Friday, for example, it is available on pirated versions, and it is being shared, say, just an example, in local trains and in Mumbai, for example. And it is so easily and easily done, and there is absolutely no check on it. So even if you are releasing a film, say, after 6 months on OTT, but the fact is that the pirated versions are just hurting the business anyways, and no one seems to be really bothered about that.
So I think that is then not looking at the correct problem and giving the correct solution, but bringing a hammer to every sort of problem, I mean, I don't know whether releasing it quicker on OTT is solving the piracy problem.
I'm not saying that. That is like a good thing, for example. But still, the fact is that if ideally, it should be like an all-round attempt.
It should be, and in fact, if the
piracy
industry
is something that needs to be taken up
seriously.
Seriously.
Should be, because if the industry is supposed to genuinely make money and is to genuinely become a sort of an economically efficient kind of operation, these are very important things. Piracy is a big deal, and it does. But another reason why piracy happens is because things cost too much, right? Usually the solution to piracy is price. Why do you, we have ourselves, if you look at us, we have now stopped buying DVDs from the Signal, right? You don't buy DVDs from the Signal anymore. You used to get that. It used to be such a big deal before. Nowadays, on your own personal experience, you find that you go to some of the sites to see things, but otherwise, by and large, you wait for it to come onto some platform and then you watch it, right? If the system settles in a proper way and if piracy is controlled, I think it will be beneficial for the whole industry, to create windows. Now what's happening is that because things are going to come onto the platform so quickly, you're almost not going to the theater because you're saying that your word of mouth has not been so good. Anyway, forget it. I won't see it now. I'll, ek mahine mein to aa hi jayega. And that may not be either good.
No, definitely. But as far as the piracy is concerned, I think Bluetooth is playing a big part as far as the DVDs. People just share, because I travel in, say, AC trains. I've seen people sharing movies via Bluetooth. I've seen it myself. I've made videos of people watching like a hit film that released Friday and Saturday I'm watching it. I made a video, but then I thought that what's the point of posting it, because the industry is conveniently sleeping over it.
Yeah, because it's a big loss. It's a big loss. It's a big loss, and I think it should be addressed and fought, and it needs stronger regulation. See, also what happens is that while we create regulation for so many things, for something like this, in anywhere else in the world, in the US, piracy is a criminal offense.
Correct.
And it's like a very
Even down
serious.
south, they have far more control over piracy because of fan clubs. The films
But they
run
also
longer.
struggle. I mean, Tamil Rockers is a real thing.
It has just released. I spoke to those guys, but relatively,
Yeah.
because in the fan clubs they play a part in terms of ensuring that the piracy. It is far lesser than what it tends to be.
Well, yeah, and see, I think in a sense, what may have also happened is that over the years, with all the growth and expansion and all of that, is that the hardcore fans and the fan clubs have got over the last couple of decades diluted in Hindi. I don't think we have the same intense love
Absolutely.
for our cinema and our stars as say we had
was earlier.
20 years ago.
Mr. Bachchan,
Like 20
right.
years ago,
Absolutely.
somebody like me would be a pretty manic fan.
Correct.
I don't know whether the kids of today are as
Absolutely.
intense about that.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. Okay, and sir, there's one more very, I think, interesting sort of thing happening. Like, say, for example, when we see something like Scam, for example, it is so original. I still remember when I saw it, and I spoke to Pratik the same day, and Hansal Mehta made an appearance in that, and I was so excited when I watched it. So many other shows that are doing so well, be it Delhi Crime, like say Family Man, they're getting international recognition. Which is something that really happened as far as mainstream Indian movies are concerned. If a Lagan goes for an Oscar, it was considered a big thing. Now, the important part is that a lot of emphasis is on writing. You yourself are very bullish about writing part of it. I keep on seeing your tweets that there's a lot of imagination and thought in whatever you do, and that shows in the content that Applause is producing. But for example, recently I watched a film and I saw a scene which was like an exact replica of House of Cards. And I was like, the idea is that we are not supposed to talk about it. That you have to support the movies, but the fact that someone is taking an easier way out and just blatantly copying something which is so easily available, I find that in a way careless somehow. When writing on OTT, for example, consistently is being so original and so professional, somehow the film still there is an element of copying scenes and other stuff which I find like it's easier way out in a way.
Well, see, actually, what's happened is that historically, films have been inspired by, other films and been made in that manner. One thing what we have tried to do in television, first on television and now even in streaming, is that if we are going to adapt something internationally, we try and get the rights. So at least it's being done in a legitimate manner. You're paying license fees, you're doing all of that. Because it should be done that way. Right? That's the first thing. Second thing is that in the process of doing it, you're always making it for a new audience. Right? So these comparisons that we draw, like when we do say a criminal justice, there will be a small audience in India that has seen The Night Of. There will be. We are not making it for that audience. We are not making it for me. I have seen The Night Of. So criminal justice is not being made for me. It is being made for somebody who has not even seen it, who has not heard of it. So we are trying to take a story to a wider audience. If you take Martin Scorsese, when he made Departed, Departed was a Hong Kong film called Infernal Affairs. He made it into Departed, set it in that Irish mafia space, and he proceeded to get his one and only Oscar for it. It's an adaptation. And it was a really good movie. Everyone saw it, and whoever saw it loved it. But if you've seen Infernal Affairs, you say like, wow, okay. And it's pretty much, in the same wavelength. Obviously, tweaked and changed. So I don't think there's any, see, even adaptation, even doing something takes effort, right? That's why sometimes adaptations go wrong as well. It's not that, because it's not an easy job, because you have to reimagine things, you have to set it in the right context. There are some parts of a thing that don't translate well enough. Our cultures are different, milieus are different. Like typically the hard one to do in India always is things involving serial killers, because it is very hard to kill people, be a serial killer in India. There are too many of us, right? Usually when you see serial killer series or movies, it's always that blank expanse of America or the Scandinavian countries, and it's all cold and wet and dark and empty. India mein kahan hai, sir? It's not even possible to do that. So I think these are small things that we learn as we go along. But it is stories to be told, and because it's a big growing market, and there's so much of, most 70-80% of India has not even been exposed to international content, right? So when you are now taking shows or movies and trying to, reimagine it in an Indian context, whether make a South story or make a North story, and so many have been done. Like we all loved Andhadhun. Andhadhun is a Spanish short story. So it's been there. There was another one called Badla. Badla is another short story. Now the new one Anurag has made Dobara is based on some movie. Now what is that movie? I don't know. It might be some Polish cinema. The Polish picture hai, and you've taken it to a larger audience. So I think the aim and emphasis is always to take stories and take them to larger audiences. Let the world consume it. And sometimes it can't be just saying, I'll show you a dubbed version or subtitle wala dekh lena. It doesn't work like that. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So when we also look at what we call global hits that have worked in India, वही है ना एक हाथ में 5-10 of them. So you'll say Narcos, you'll say Money Heist, you'll say Squid Game, you'll say ऐसे ही तो हैं the 4-5 that have broken through. But there are so many other shows that then they haven't really gone through. So like when something like a Family Man happens and gets appreciation abroad, it's a good thing. It's a good thing because it's a show that's being seen abroad. Now when we are doing Criminal Justice season 3, our season 3 is an original now because the Brits didn't do it, the Americans didn't do it, and we have taken Madhav Mishra and season 3 tak pahunch gaya. So now we are operating at season 3 with a story that the Brits haven't done. So we are actually wanting to reverse license it to them now, saying कि आप भी बना लो.
No, that's basically what I was saying was about that particular scene that I'm talking about. So I'm not talking about adaptation. Adaptation is something which is legitimate. One is actually taking
scene
the.
तो कहते हैं कितने how many directors we've had वो कहते थे ना DVD makers
Yeah.
DVD play करो और फिर shoot करो.
Right.
तो वो तो हुआ ही है industry में.
But do you feel that the oversimplification and the easier way out that a lot of filmmakers they've been taking for quite some time, maybe that has been the reason that the cinema going audience is not that keen to just flock
Could
to
be.
theaters?
I mean, see, finally there used to be, we used to always say that in the 70s and 80s and even 90s, if you take, there was a certain passion that went into making films.
Right.
It is conceivable that as time passes, we always run that risk, right? That as a generational thing, creators and producers and directors and writers, you sort of, take things for granted. You assume everything is fine. So then a big churn comes. Maybe we are in the middle of a big churn. Maybe we are at that point where suddenly after a long arc of time, we are finding that our cinema, what we are doing, is not, resonating with audiences, and it requires us to therefore, get out of denial and sort of, address the matter as it is and see what's to be done.
Okay.
Because we can't keep saying that what we are doing is right, but somehow the audience is wrong. Because the audience is never wrong.
Correct.
So it must be something, right? And it could be many reasons, that it's hard to sort of pinpoint. Like one version, one way I see it is that over the last 2 decades, we started making films better looking, right? So gradually, all the films started looking better. It was also the world of the internet, liberalization had happened. Everyone was traveling globally. In the 70s and 80s, we weren't traveling globally. So the international audiences and people had not seen our cinema. Now suddenly they were exposed to it. So we started making things better. In the process of making things better, you could argue that we make foreign-looking Indian films, right? Today, in general, right?
Correct.
Good quality, foreign-looking Indian films. Is that a reason why all of a sudden we are finding South Indian cinema so much fascinating because it is that much more grungy and grimy and realistic? Is that, I don't know, maybe that we make such glossy cinema that to a larger mass audience that has come into the pool, it doesn't resonate, Again, these are simplistic answers. Somebody will come and say, नहीं पर ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, वो picture तो बड़ी hit हो गई, वो भी true है, So it happens. So I think it's a combination of things. Maybe it's also a big time for change of guard. There's been, a certain type of cinema, a certain type of hero, a certain type of maker that has now currently been ruling for 20-25 years.
Correct.
There is that, that
churning of sorts maybe happening. Okay, and so you are this big filmmaker and entertainment sort of Mughal you addressed over the last 20 years. But I've personally found it to be extremely approachable because I have not looked at you from a business point of view. You've always come across as someone who's a creative person. You seem from that perspective, which I find very unique. Because many times when it comes to the business part of it, people who are basically producing and all that, they usually talk numbers and other stuff. Your approach it seems to be different. What makes you look at the entire business of entertainment from a creative perspective instead of merely looking at it from numbers in terms of how it's going to just churn out money?
See, numbers become an outcome. Right? Numbers is always an outcome. So when you talk revenue, it is what you get. after you've completed your process. The important thing in that is to first of all make whatever you're doing. If you're creating a film or a series or whatever, you have to make that. And the making of that is you operates on slightly different assumptions from just economics. Obviously, costs play a part, and you must have that. But I think it's really important to do things which first of because see our business is a really simple business. It involves the interest of people, right? So there must be a large audience that must be interested in what you do, and they must actively interact with it, enjoy it, talk about it, spread word of mouth, and make a big shosha out of it. If they do that, you get revenue, right? That's the way whether it's TV, you get ratings. If it's OTT, you have to get subscribers, and if it's theatrical, then you have to get tickets sold. So either way, it involves people becoming sort of passionate and really like sort of you building a fandom. We are in the business of building fandom. See, we don't sell a product, right? I read this really nice quote that we are the only business in the world where we make something and we only sell you a limited memory, right? We don't sell you the product. The product is still mine. So when you go and see a movie and you come out enjoying it and say, I saw a great movie, you paid for the memory of what you saw. You don't have it. If you want to revive that, revisit that memory, you have to see it again. And the actual product I own. On the other hand, if you go and buy a phone or a T-shirt or something, you get to take the product away. You own it, right? So that's what we do. We are in the business of selling you your memory, right? So when we do that, it is really important for us to make sure that that moment of our interaction with consumers is magical, special, enjoyable, delightful, dazzling, disturbing, whatever we are trying to do. So I think my focus has always been that, that the end goal, see, the outcome is the money. So if I succeed in dazzling you, I will make money. If I succeed in delighting you, I will make money. So if I am focused on making money, then I am missing the trick here because the focus cannot be making money. Because money is only an outcome. Money is a reaction. You feel good, I make money. So I have to first make you feel good. If I don't make you feel good, I can't make money.
That's amazing.
So whatever you do in whether you do TV or any of in this business of ours, right? It is connected to the experience and the interaction, and then the outcome is the business. So if the outcome is the business, then I think that's sort of you got to.
That's amazing. Once again, that's a very creative way of looking at it, and it's beautiful. Okay, now when you have something like say a scam, for example, you have something like say Rudra or like a criminal justice. You're remaking Fodder right now. There is, I think, there's a film on Gandhi, I believe, that you're working on. So there are multiple sort of projects that you've done and you're doing as well. What is your role as a producer in terms of how much space is important for the writers and the director to do what they want to do and to create the world that they want to create? Because like the world that Hansal Mehta created, maybe in say Scam, for example, I feel that maybe it would not have been possible if he would not have got the freedom that maybe he wanted.
True. So actually, see, the way we work is that we have something what is the applause way, which is that we do try and bring a certain degree of discipline and process to how things are to be done. But on the other hand, the way we work is that it's not my way or the highway, right? It's actually our way, right?
Wow.
And the way we work is that we work with everyone differently. So there's one business part of it, a systematic kind of, we have to make a series. So obviously commission hoga, there will be the stages, writing, casting, pre-production, production, post, release. वो तो एक steps है. Everyone follows the same steps. There are certain milestones, some budgets will be arrived at, all that is done. After that, what we try and do is that we try and work with each creative talent in the manner that is most suitable to them. So which is why like currently we are doing work with Hansal, we are doing work with Sudhir, we are doing work with Tigmanshu, we are doing work with Nagesh Kukunur, with Shahad Ali, with Nikhil Advani, with Rohan Sippi, and the list goes on, aisa, alag people. And each of them are very different people. And I think what I pride myself on and I pride my team applause on is that we work with everyone. It's not, there's not one creative vision or voice. There are multiple creative visions or voices, because each show, like when Hansal is working on something, he's got his unique voice, and that unique voice must be heard. When you're working with some writers, they've got a unique voice, that unique voice must be heard. What we are trying to do is to provide the scalable, expandable framework for it to allow all these multiple voices to flourish. and the more everyone flourishes, because see, each voice needs to be unique, because then everything will look the same. It'll all sound like me. And luckily for us, nothing that we make sounds like me.
But I feel that the fact that it does not sound exactly like you, because I feel that you have multiple voices, and I'll tell you why. Because say I follow you very closely on Twitter, and the sort of things that you share, and the sort of books that you give to people, and I'm sure that you read them yourself as well, and uh, you're more keen on sharing stuff on say books and all that, which is very interesting. So the worldview that you're having, the way you look at the world, I think is rather holistic, and maybe I think it also contributes in terms of you can look at things in say compartmentalized manner.
I do, and in fact, I try very hard to do that, because I think that when we are doing different things, like now when Aparna makes The Rapist, it's a very unique voice. It's her story. She's written it, and she has a very different worldview of how to do things. She's also a very senior filmmaker. She's also 75 years old, right? And she has a story to tell and to be told in a particular way, and she's got a very distinctive sort of approach to it. Similarly, Nandita Das, when she's making her movie, and we've cast Kapil Sharma in it.
Yes,
It
yes,
is
yes.
no quite the volatile combination of things going on here,
Right.
and they're shooting in Bhubaneswar, and it is a sort of it's a modern take on modern times and the working class struggle. So it's a very nice kind of space. So these are all very distinctive people. When Saurabh Shukla directs his movie, or when we make the movie with Vidya Balan and Pratik Gandhi as a rom-com, they are all different people, different performers, and we try very hard. Well, I think each creative product must be different. It must have that sort of unique edge to it. It's really important to have that voice, because otherwise it will be formulaic, and it will just become a big, large factory produced thing. So oftentimes when people tell us that, oh, Applause is churning out so many shows, I actually don't quite like the word churning out, because churning out somehow sounds like
Factory,
a factory produced kind of thing, and nothing that we make is factory produced,
similar.
because no two things are the same. In fact, like, because I have keep explaining this to my big bosses at the Birla Group, because they are the big industrial company, right? And they are used to factory produce. They know exactly how factories work. Each product is different, each product is unique, each product comes with its own challenges. You can't even take the template of one and put it on the other, because वो थोड़ा तो हो गई, कि well, this is no, I don't shoot like this, so I don't do that. Like different people have different approaches.
Yeah.
But the good thing what's happening for us, and for me especially, I'm really enjoying this, because I'm learning from everyone. Because everyone has a way of approaching this. Of how to write, how to imagine a scene, approach with directors, approach with actors, staging, how do you imagine your soundscape and musicscape, what is the process for post. It's all very interesting, and we in the meantime also learn. So what we can also bring to the table in all these interactions is that now 40 shows later, even I can tell you a thing or two about how this is made. So oftentimes we tell our directors, we say, "Acha, हमें भी पता है. Let's not do this, let's do that." Or we tell people, "Yeah, don't shoot, there are a lot of problems." Or let's not cast this one, or let's cast this one is really good, let's do this. So we have. And see, the good thing is that we get along with them, they get along with us. I think that's important.
It's collaboration.
Because, the end product destination is, who knows, abhi kya hoga. So if the journey is good, at least you had a good journey.
क्या बात है? Okay, and what are your views on self-censorship?
Self-censorship or censorship or whatever it is, I mean, it's been going on for years. I mean, there's always been CBFC, there's always been some sort of oversight, and there's always been art which must, sort of continue to tell the stories and continue to push the envelope and continue to do all that, because that's what art is required to do. So, like, if you look at the 70s, the angry young man and the Amitabh Bachchan persona and the whole period was built on creating a character that is anti-establishment, right? So that's a character who's against the government, who's against politics, who's corruption in politics, against the cops who are corrupt, and he's that lone common man fighting the system. That was a whole. We have grown up with that with that content, right? And that is what pushed the envelope forward to then settling to a more liberal age. Then liberalization happened, everyone became rich and happy and more contented, and then we produced a different kind of cinema. So as far as censorship goes, it's there. It's always been there. There'll always be oversight. There's no getting away from that, because we have to live within society, and we have to, in a sense, manage to create our work in that framework. Right? The people talk about freedom of expression, but then freedom of expression goes everywhere, right? So if I have a freedom to express my ideas on screen, you have a freedom to express your ideas regarding my ideas, right? You have the same freedom. So I think everything should be done. Years back when I first joined Star TV, my boss at that time, Tony Watts, he told me a very interesting thing. So he said that, remember, in television, you are an invited guest in somebody's living room, right? And you must learn to conduct yourself in the right way. So I think that has always stayed with me as an operating philosophy, that we are at the end of the day invited guests in your life, right? When you see my movie, you are allowing me to show it to you. And on TV especially more, because you're going to see it, in your home with your family. So I think these are just, we learn. And people do. I mean, we're all doing. So many great movies get made. So many times the envelope gets pushed. Society changes because of what we do. Right? And there will be stops. The people will stop you from doing something. People will say, nahi, aise nahi bolte, waise nahi bolte. But society will change, right?
Right, but say as far as you're a guest in someone's living room, so all that is, I think, democratic. That is something which is voluntary, and that's a choice that the audience is having. But we've also seen this phenomenon. We keep on hearing about it. In terms of that, there are agencies which run a lot of these boycott hashtags and all those things, and that is something which is not organic, maybe. And because of that, a lot of times filmmakers they are being extra careful कि इसके बारे में ऐसे नहीं करते हैं, वैसे नहीं करते हैं, कि पता नहीं कौन सी बात किसको बुरा लग जाए टाइप्स. एंड वो बहुत बार जो बुरा लगने वाली बात जो हो रही है वो शायद मे बी इट इज समथिंग व्हिच इज मैन्युफैक्चर्ड. So does that bother you as a creative person?
Not really, because see, this is what I mean. A manufactured boycott, or somebody feels bad, is if your intent is true, and if you are trying to tell it in the correct way. See, I try very hard to to keep reiterating this, that we are entertainers. We are not activists, right? I am not an activist. If I wanted to be an activist, I should be out there. I should be out on the street protesting. Since I'm not doing that, then I should be an entertainer. I should focus on what I'm supposed to do. And that's what we try to do. So we try and tell good stories. We try and tell them in the best possible way. We try and subvert. We try and, we try and push the envelope. We try and be edgy. We try and address issues. You hold a society to mirror, obviously. You reflect society, you also hold a society to it. You do all of those things. But it's not, we are not driven by that. If we are telling a story, we want to tell the story first, and we want you to read. See, our success will come is if I am able to get through to you, and if you are to watch this and you have to enjoy it and then think about it later, right? I don't want you to think about it before I show it to you, right? I want you to think about it after you've seen it, right? And then I want you to think about what did I say, and then I want the penny to drop, right? So if I do it in that manner, then I think I am being a far better storyteller, right? As compared to arriving in your life and hitting you with a hammer and saying, now this is what is important and affects us all. That's not storytelling. Storytelling is for you to realize what I said and then sort of, sort of reflect upon it.
Okay, all right. And so how do you look at the Indian entertainment space going from here?
I think it's in a good space, leaving aside this little coming off COVID, and therefore all the theatres shut, and now we're trying to reopen the theatres, and that's its own challenges. OTT is going through its own few struggles because of some international numbers, and also everyone is looking at, are we slowing down, are we not slowing down? And TV is doing TV. But I think, and of course a larger macroeconomic condition that, if there is inflation, if there is recession, if there is unemployment, that's always a screw up, because our business is a discretionary business. So we come low on the pecking order.
Correct.
So roti, kapda, makan, and then maybe us. So uske pehle education bhi aa jayega. So it's a little. But assuming that those larger sort of factors, assuming COVID, we have seen the last of it. Assuming theatres return to normalcy, OTT will grow. Because it's already happened now. Devices are there, 4G there, 5G coming. I think by and large we are in a very nice phase, because what the streamers have done is the streamers have come and created this flat earth. We are truly in a global village now, and they have presented us a international stage. So when we now make anything and put it onto a streamer, it can technically be viewed globally, which was never possible before. Not with TV. Not with theatres, because you have to go physically and the effort of doing it. So it's an amazing opportunity. We can now also look and aspire to make content that now currently how we consume Money Heist, theoretically they should consume Family Man, right? It should happen in that manner. It's possible now, and I guess we'll get better at it. I think the market will grow. We are a very large market. We just scratched the surface. Now this OTT, the whole scenario is about 50-60 million. Hungama. The potential for this market is 1 billion, right? You can
Of
get
course.
to 1 billion because that's the number of phones, devices, everything there. All the languages are rising. Hindi is doing a lot more. So I think in general, in the next 5-10 years, this is like serious boom time. Boom time for doing better stuff, doing for the whole market to grow, for the consumers to grow. It has its challenges. The challenges will remain. That if economic conditions are bad, then economic conditions are bad, but then it affects everyone. It's not just the entertainment. But I think the entertainment business is in a unique space because, they say that how like alcohol, entertainment is recession proof, right? Because, if you're happy, you
People
watch
need
something,
console.
then if you're sad, you watch something. So, but the economics, of course, are challenging because, it's difficult. But I think it's good. I think it's going to really grow in the next 5, 10, 15 years.
Fantastic. Samir sir, as always, wonderful talking to you, and thank you very much for your time, and congratulations for the great journey so far.
Thank you
And
so
all the
much.
best wishes for all your shows and the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
That's all we have from Bollywood Hungama. Keep on watching.
Hi, this is Samir Nair, and you're watching Bollywood Hungama.